Hey everyone, Mike Miller, Herald Times, joined by columnist Jeremy Price after Indiana's 96-73 win over Marquette. First touch of the season for Indiana here in the Gavitt games, of which Indiana's participating the third time since its inaugural year in 2015. Drew the number 24th ranked Golden Eagles of Marquette, a matchup that would have had all sorts of intrigue had a certain unnamed coach been on the sidelines tonight. Alas, here in the it was almost sort of the unofficial start almost of the Archie Miller era in a way, where you had this a big, at least a ranked opponent coming in here on a big stage. It was a chance for Indiana, a potentially very deep and talented Indiana team, to really test itself out of the gate, and capitalizing on a very classic vintage Assembly Hall type of atmosphere here in November. Indiana was able to kind of get off to a very solid start, get Marquette on its heels early, and kind of pound them from there in a sense that was very comprehensive and diverse in the way they did so.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, this so-called first test didn't turn out to be that much of a test at all. The way this game started, and it'll sort of be interesting to see how this game holds up down the road. Does this wind up as a really strong resume building kind of win for Indiana? Does Marquette do the fade this year, and turns out that it wasn't such a great win after all? These are things you never know early in the season how these things are going to turn out. But for this Indiana team, it was at least another step towards building a certain level of confidence and belief in itself, I think, to step up against the level of competition and to find success. And they did it by sort of I would say by following the formula that Archie Miller wants them to follow, in the sense of setting a tone with defense, finding offense out of that defense, and then just kind of everything else comes together.
You look at Marcus Howard, a guy who has All-America potential this year as a really prolific elite scorer here at this level. First 3 minutes, I think he had 3 turnovers, and from those 3 turnovers, Indiana was able to get easy buckets, whether it was in transition or drawing fouls and getting to the line. And I thought that was important in the sense that here you had an Indiana team with a backcourt that was ailing. You didn't have Zach McRoberts, you didn't have Devontae Green, but at least early you were able to sort of build that cushion without having to worry about your half-court offense. You're able to kind of build that cushion through some of those easy baskets that you're able to put the ball on the floor and really do what this team naturally should be able to do well.
Yeah, and I think my takeaway from the post-game press conference was kind of the preparation that Indiana put in. You asked Robert Finney, you asked Al Durham, you asked Evan Fitzner, what made you guys successful against defending against Marcus Howard? What made you successful against the ball screens and those kind of stuff? And almost to a man, it was, well, we've been working on this stuff all week. The coaches really prepared us. We all had our assignments. We knew what we were supposed to do. And so they took what they'd worked on in practice and were able to successfully apply it in a game situation. And it's you can't understate the ability for a team to do that, especially when you're talking young guys like Finney and Langford and some of those guys coming in as freshmen, and even Durham as a sophomore, Justin Smith as a sophomore. I mean, you've got a lot of young pieces on this team, and to have the maturity to be able to come in and implement a game plan as it's supposed to be done goes a long way towards giving you an idea of what the potential of this team is.
I think that's remarkable, just the fact that here we are, second week of November, and we're talking about a backcourt that's already, I think it's fair to say, a little bit ahead of the curve, it seems. Coming into the year, you definitely saw the talent there, whether it was going to be with a healthy Devontae Green sharing minutes with Robert Finney, or Al Durham working his way into the equation as well. But already you're seeing a backcourt that, again, seems not only capable but confident in its responsibilities, both on the defensive end in what it did against Marcus Howard tonight, but also on the offensive end. I think Durham and Finney combined for 13 assists, 1 turnover. So
right.
You had sort of this fluid, just balanced backcourt tonight, and of course there was Romeo Langford too. But again, here we are in the second week of November, and if you look around this roster and you look at all the depth and the different ways, different lineups they can trot out, already you kind of have a backcourt that you can play around with, and at least again feel confident that they can steady the ship as it is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you were really looking at an 8-man rotation that Indiana was playing tonight, with all those guys out, with Green out, Hunter out, Thompson out, McRoberts out. And I think that's where probably it showed up. The difference is that Indiana got off to such a good start tonight and built itself such a cushion that whether it was foul trouble, fatigue, whatever it was tonight, they were basically able to weather that throughout as a result. So if you can add those other guys in and bring some added depth, and so when they're getting tired or the focus is waning a little bit, you bring some guys off the bench to ramp that up a little bit. I think there's another level that it can still go there, both offensively and defensively.
You also saw tonight, just so you may have touched on it, but Evan Fitzner coming in and kind of filling that sixth man role, both in terms of his shooting ability, but also, again, we saw at times his length and how that can help too in sort of second chance opportunities. But again, just another added facet, another added dimension you kind of have with this team, just throwing a shooter out there like Evan Fitzner, again, who in this kind of matchup here, we had a bunch of stretch forwards and the Hauser brothers and some of the other guys that they can trot out on the Marquette end. A guy who not only fit his role, but again spaced the floor and kind of gave you that shooting dimension in a game where Indiana was really able to kind of find his bread and butter, cutting and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and Fitzner was one of a number of guys you could highlight on this night. You could really point to a lot of different guys that did a lot of different things, but probably Fitzner and Al Durham are kind of the two guys that really jump out for me as much as anything. Obviously Robert Finney, but I think we're starting to figure out that Finney is not a fluke at this point,
no,
that he is what he is. So I don't know that that's necessarily a surprise, but Fitzner, his ability to be efficient and consistent and confident as an offensive player, to come in as a grad transfer, a lot of times you're sort of feeling your way and trying to figure out where do I fit, when do I take my shot, when do I not take my shot, and he has had no issue whatsoever with that. And he's not just out there jacking shots up, but when he's open, he's not hesitant to let it fly. And he actually scored off the dribble on one take to the basket tonight, hit a couple of jump shots. He scored in the post. He's really shown it at every level of the floor offensively. Kind of makes you wonder, what in the world, how did he not get in the world of St. Mary's before? But, I think he does have a ways to go defensively and so on and so forth. But I think offensively, largely playing that stretch four spot, he's been absolutely everything you could hope for from an Indiana perspective. And then in the second half, there was one sequence where Marquette was kind of going to that full court pressure. It wasn't very good full court pressure, but one time down to me, it's basically one cross court pass to Measy Anderson, knocks down a three. The next time down, it's one cross court pass, and Fitzner lets fly for three. And ball's going in. I guess nobody's complaining, and just a lot of guys playing with confidence right now. That's the biggest thing.
And that was the thing too, and you talk about how you could really single out just about anyone who got on the floor tonight, and I think that's true in a lot of ways, because even when they were in the half court, there was a lot of good ball movement. Just they were able to whip it around and kind of get different looks from the way they were able to pass the ball and cut and kind of get these different looks around the floors. Another encouraging sign that here you are in the second week of November, you already have some, again, with an offense that, admittedly from Archie Miller's side, had a ways to gel as far as chemistry, feeling it out, and certainly with all the different lineups they can play, some of the guys that haven't practiced with their health issues, it seemed again that given the stage, given the moment, it was an offense that was able to find each other and seem confident in knowing where each other were going to be.
Yeah, and that was one of the stark contrasts of these two teams tonight, really the beginning of the second half, where you had one possession where Indiana, moves it around. Finney drives baseline and finds a cutting Justin Smith for the dunk. And then the next time down, I think Juwan Morgan was posted up. They bring the double team. He goes opposite for the cross-court pass. Finney knocks down the three. Yep. Indiana's basically, being patient, moving the ball around, getting wide open looks whenever they want it. Marquette's at the other end. They're burning the shot clock down and then taking contested fadeaway jumpers in the lane, basically. So, it was sort of a tale of two teams able to execute at different levels tonight. And for, obviously being at home is a huge advantage for Indiana, but still to execute at that level is a really good sign for this team.
Absolutely. The first two tests this week on the road at Arkansas Sunday afternoon. What is that? 3:30 tip? Somewhere in the 3 o'clock hour it'll tip off. Another good opportunity to see exactly how this Indiana responds from. Again, a game where they were fueled in large part from the crowd, but also did their part. But also, again, getting on the road in that kind of environment against an SC team that Arkansas traditionally plays well at home. Granted, it's rebuilding, lost a lot of their top players from last year's NCAA tournament team. But again, you're going into an NCC environment, might see even some pressure from that defense as well. It'll be a really intriguing matchup to kind of follow up what was a really all-encompassing effort this evening.
Yeah. The game on Sunday will be sort of a flip of the script. Tonight Indiana comes in and playing at home, and with Marquette having a ranking, Indiana could kind of be the hunter a little bit. On Sunday, they're definitely going to be the hunted. They're going to be the ones walking into the hostile environment, and you're going to expect Arkansas is going to come out and really try to blitz them from the get-go like Indiana did Marquette tonight. So it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain that same composure and maturity on the road as they showed here. I'm sure there'll be the iffy moments, but early indications are that this team's up for the challenge at least.
Really intriguing night. Curious to see where it goes from here in a 96-73. We practiced that because we don't have a box score in front of us. 96-73 win for Indiana here in the first big stage game, I guess you call it here, Assembly Hall this season. A few more on tap. See what happens on the road from here. I'll see you Sunday.